Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Life Stories. Today on the show, I'm very happy to introduce you to Lolke Bijlsma, a product leader in fintech who has been in the area for many, many years. And after several roles, he's become the head of alternative payments in PayPal. So, Lolke, welcome to the show. Happy to have you here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So, Lolke, tell us a little bit about your story. How did you So you started as a software developer back in the day, and then you eventually grew. You eventually leaped to several positions to be a product lead in PayPal. So what can you tell us about that story?
Yeah, I'm not the ones like that have a very well thought out kind of career as some other like people have. I know of people that have a well thought out plan, say, hey, in X number of years I want to attain this, and then I want to be the CEO of my startup or something like that. Like, no, I actually kind of went my merry way, and then opportunities came and I grabbed them like full hand. Um Leadership story started like pretty early onwards. I'm originally from the Netherlands, and I worked for a large like American company in the Netherlands for in the telecom space for a long time. And I was leading as a tech lead, not a people leader in any shape or form, but like as a technology leader, like in a small group that was working on an initiative like that was like done on both sides of the ocean. Um, yeah, like that learned me kind of like how to kind of like be like really a techie, but also like take some basic like leadership skills to kind of be responsible for some of the technology space that was kind of going on. That eventually got me into the United States, and eventually they got me into like you mentioned PayPal. So I just had a very like long career at PayPal. And that kind of repeated itself. At PayPal, I was a software developer, really liked that. But I became the tech lead of a project. And then my manager at the time, he asked me at one time, like, hey, you're like already leading this from a technology perspective. What if you become the manager of the team? And I just took that on. I had no aspirations like to that in the beginning, but like, hey, opportunity rose, stepped into it. Really figured out soon thereafter that I really liked the people element of like people leadership, which I didn't really kind of see come from because I was a techie guy. Um, and my manager soon thereafter left. He was just basically setting up his kind of his succession like in that way. And that worked like very well. I grew through the ranks like as a software development like leader. Stayed very hands-on, so I was kind of like known as the hands-on kind of like manager for a long time. Um, and had a handful of like big kind of like opportunities that came my way. So I switched jobs kind of like a handful of like times. I would say like the next big kind of like move that happened was that I jumped into like something kind of like completely kind of like unknown. There were a handful of acquisitions that the company had done, and I was asked like by then leadership to kind of like lead that initially from an like pure software development slash engineering perspective. And I did not have a background into that. Most of the work that I did before that, I had like that background, so I could be that hands-on person. Here, I didn't have that background. So I really had to kind of like step up, but also like learn like what it is not to be that really hands-on like leader. Really enjoyed that. Um, uh, we can touch upon it a little bit later, but like one of those push forward moments because like 3 months after I got into the job, I was actually sitting in Apple's quarters, talking about kind of like them potentially working with us, and so like that was kind of like a great experience. Um, and then the next big move out of that was I've been uh, one of the things that I see the differentiation, let's say, like between engineering and product is like the how, which is kind of like the software engineering part, and the why part. Why are we doing this? This is like the product like side. And I started to talk a lot to my product counterparts, like why are we doing these things that you basically asked me to build? And I got more and more interested into that. And when the product leader of that team kind of like left, I went to my manager and said like, "Hey, can I take on both roles?" And so I happened to be able to like take on both the product as well as the engineering role of that team. And that transitioned me like like set up like for the next kind of like waves that came after that. And at the end, because of like also company reorganizations and everything else, just kind of like led kind of like product. And in my last role that I left like last year, I was leading all of the alternative payments development, kind of like at PayPal, build a completely brand new team, kind of like around that. And so really honing on kind of like both like the product skills as well as that people skills that we kind of like talked to like about like that. So basically a path, so to speak, of opportunities that came in front of me that I jumped upon. And not kind of like just to recap what we said at the beginning, yeah, a very well thought out plan that some people have.
People are also, looking for, some stories that you can find, in your career where you say, oh yeah, this happened and made me learn this. You wanna tell us some of those stories? I know you have a
Yeah, yeah,
few.
I know. Yeah, there's, I know, and this is what I just mentioned. Kind of like sometimes embrace change, or you get a little bit like in the unknown. So in the beginning, when you just transition into kind of like management, um, like I was kind of like at the time, I was at the luxury for like for two roles that I had. I was reporting to people that I was really kind of like looking up to, basically, and they were providing like the necessary kind of coaching, like to some like point kind of like as well. So that I really worked like kind of like out well. But one very early story kind of like on that front is that I had to hire some people, and I was like talking to folks, and there was like one really particular person that I like had high in regard that I wanted to hire, but my manager was kind of like pushing back, and and uh this is where like I decided like, hey, I'm just gonna do this anyway because I feel good like about this. In hindsight, this was one of the best hires that I've ever done. Like, see, like worked like on and off like for me for many, many, many years, and see like has grown to an amazing like leader. Um, and so this is like a moment where like, okay, like I was sure of myself, and I was willing to kind of like stand up, like kind of like for that. And that was fairly early in the career, but like that was like I think a lesson where you don't have to always like do or follow kind of like what's kind of going on there. The other one I kind of alluded to in the prior kind of like segment already, which is I um, I took on a role. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see like the digital goods kind of and product and engineering, but at the time it was engineering, which was a handful of acquisitions that the company had done and didn't around digital good payments, and wasn't 100% sure kind of like what's like next for that, and I didn't know anything kind of like about that. So that was the first time I was jumping into something where I had not been hands-on myself. Like before that, I was in roles where I even had done code contributions and everything else. So and so this is really where I had to learn kind of like a new space. This is where initially my product kind of like sense kind of like also like came up, and then we were within months part of an RFP with Apple, as I early on alluded to. And so suddenly I was sitting kind of like in presentations representing an area that until a few months ago I didn't know anything kind of like about. So that really kind of like jumped like me kind of like really, really forward. I also had an amazing team that really was open to like embrace me, and to this day, there's some really good people that I still am in contact with, like that were part of like part of that team. And we did a lot of experimentation, like in that team as well. That allowed me to be a little bit more hands-on around like various kind of like areas. But like that was great, and that was the spearhead to getting into kind of yeah, like product. And then in the next big leap, I would say, and big kind of like story is the role after that, where I was part of PayPal's kind of like checkout kind of like organization, and they were looking at a handful of problem statements around how to improve real customer problems. And I was immediately asked, like, here's a customer problem about customers not able to pay a merchant, or merchant not be able to like receive payments from a customer. Can you look into that and come up with potential solutions like that? And so the ability to again take on something completely unknown, but when very early on, look at that, do the research, create the value prop, build a strategy around this, and then execute on that. And that was like the first phase of like what I call alternative payments at PayPal.
And I
Pretty amazing.
presume that you had to rely on your people the most because it was not your area of expertise. So I'm pretty sure that you had to leverage the team.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, totally, totally.
yeah. And so would you recommend people as a way of, honing or evolving their leadership skills to get outside of their comfort zone and, like what you did, go into an area where you're not the expert. So now you can only lead the people and the people will become the experts that will push you up.
Yeah,
What do you think about that?
yeah, no, I think that's really, really true. And especially when you get into more senior roles. And like if you're just a beginning kind of like manager and you only have ICs, individual contributors reporting to you, that's a very, very different situation than when you're a product director with multiple layers like of people kind of like reporting to you. Um yeah, it's very good that you bring up kind of like the people kind of like aspect. You don't do these things without people. And so this is like where people leadership skills are like super, super important. And also not only to the people that report to you, but also the people that you need to work with. All this experience was at PayPal, which has a fairly kind of matrix style kind of organization. So to be able to essentially build anything, obviously you can build the things that like you control yourself to a point with your own people, but you also need to interface with many, many others. And so you learn the skills of how to influence like others, and that influencing skills and feel like that kind of encapsulated almost like by humble kind of kind of like leadership and uh, yeah, really create trust between kind of like the people around you, and make them excited about what your what problem you're trying to solve for are very critical skills that are setting you up like for like anything success. Like the leadership by authority, which is kind of like the easiest things to kind of like in the trap to fall into. You can only do that once, and probably maybe this one time is like needed. But if you continue to do that, that's only going to backfire over time because yeah, that's not how people typically kind of like to like work like in an environment like that. So
Right.
yeah,
No, this is great. Yeah. I mean, I think going to that step where you have to lead by influence, when you get on that, then, there's so many opportunities coming your way because, it's not that you can, so people see you not as just a leader on this aspect where you're an expert, but also, a leader of people. And then that can, make you grow
yeah,
significantly.
totally. And it makes you, especially if it's not like in your own team, but like in essentially kind of other teams that you're working with. That can like that, yeah, that can create kind of lasting kind of like literally kind of like relationships that people kind of will continue to refer to, and it works. So as an example, so if I needed something from another team, I would always come to that team with like a story of like how their work ties to like the larger objective that they're trying to solve for. And I also want to hear about like the work that they're doing to see, is there any way of like the work that already ongoing, can we tie into that in some shape or form? And so like the classic example in my last role was like we needed to launch like a new product in Germany, and I needed some work by the team that was working on like the merchant sign up, or we call it onboarding like flows. And when I went to that team, they were about to launch a complete new product like as well. And so we basically kind of combined forces. You launch your new product as long as it includes our requirements, and we're gonna like go there. I could also like force them to say, well, no, I want your older product kind of out there. But then we had double work and everything else. Now, was that a completely faultless execution and everything else? No, there were definitely some moments where there were some challenges. But in the end, I look back as like, I know that was kind of like that was awesome.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I think
and yeah,
yeah, it's all about finding win-win opportunities. I think that's what you're
exactly.
saying, and that's the way of, influencing people and getting, to, collaborate. So then, you win on your side and they win on their side. No, it's a
Totally.
great, it's a great
Yeah.
story. And Lolke, do you have any other lessons that you learned from those stories that you want to share with the listeners?
So this ties to kind of like your own like reports, which is like to me kind of like very, very important. Like, and I've been able to like do that like in a way, and so most people that have worked with me still look very fondly back like at that. Um, is create this sense of trust like between like me and whomever reports like to me, and creates this sense of autonomy. So you are clearly like defining kind of objectives that they need to meet, but you're not going to like sit in their neck kind of like on a day-to-day basis to see like what's there, like because they need to learn, they need to grow, and obviously I need like there to like work on their areas because I cannot be everywhere. I just like that bigger span of control kind of like as well, as we like early on kind of like alluding to. And if you have the right people and you have the kind of like the right culture around that, this really allows you to grow people like very fast as well. So that's some people that I hired new in like 2020, 2021 or something in that time frame. That really kind of like grew up very, very fast, similar to like how I kind of grew very fast early on in my career because of like kind of like that leadership style. And but yeah, that requires like yeah, a sense of kind of trust level between kind of like the two parties, and obviously you need to empower them that they can like do it, and then also allow them like sometimes to make failures, and then like cover that, and then if they do step in, help out, like have each other learn from that, and kind of like go to like the next kind of like level.
I love it. Yeah, and I think it's very important what you said at the end there. About letting people make mistakes. Is not something yet very common in leadership, but it's starting to grow as a tendency. And how that really helps the team excel in the long term, right? It's not just about this particular project, it's how that team builds itself, and that helps you as a leader build momentum and keep growing, as you're saying. So some people think that all this new tendency, of being an empowerer and just focus on motivation is something good for the people, but it's also good for the leader and it's also good for the organization. Because as you said, you grow faster when you do this, because your people help you, push out. They get their deadlines on time with high quality everything. They excel. So then you excel and you can show that to the organization.
It's not only on the people and the leadership, it's also on products, because many companies have this culture of embracing and cheering around kind of like launching something and then go from there. But like, what if the initial launch of a project is a failure? That doesn't mean the whole project is a failure. It could be like that, like something in the beginning wasn't like really like thought through, or like it went just a different way. Iterate on it. We live in an environment nowadays with a lot of like all the technology that we have in place, that you can make very quick changes to products, get it in the people's hands, like see whether they work, and if they do, like can build upon that. Like, so that yeah, like iterations, frequent kind of like testing, like on that front, is on the product side very important as well. And if you allow for that, then obviously that immediately translates into like how that applies to people as well. So just
It's
wanted to
awesome.
add that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I love it. So, Lolke, knowing all your story and your experience, so how could people get in contact with you and know more about you first? And also, if you want to share any final message with our listeners.
Yeah. So the best way to like find me is to find me on LinkedIn. Like the LinkedIn kind of like address will be part of this story. Otherwise, like my name is fairly unique, so you can kind of find me like on LinkedIn, connect with me. There you'll find like my story as well. And as I briefly mentioned, I'm currently kind of exploring like my new kind of opportunities. So if people are intrigued by this story and like want to like connect further, and if that leads to like anything, I'm open to any kind of conversations. So
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, a lot of people will reach out there. So we'll share all your details, your LinkedIn connection, with the newsletter edition, and also in, the footer in YouTube, so they can click directly on that. Well, Lolke, thank you so much for being here today and real life stories. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.